Hi, my name is Joelle and I'm from New York. I have always learned about God during tragedy, but where is He during those tragic times and how do we learn from Him?
There's a woman who used to speak about a Holocaust survivor who used to speak about the Holocaust, and she would say, "Where was God during the Holocaust? He was right here by my side. He's responsible for saving me from some of the most difficult, challenging, and threatening situations." So one thing we do have to know that when there is tragedy and when there are difficulties, we have to look to find that God is involved. Now, when tragedy happens, it's very hard to find positive reasons or positive connections. Now, if it's challenging, then we could say God is here and He will help me out of the challenge. If there are challenges that I have already gone through, I say, hey, there were challenges, but do you know how much I grew spiritually from those challenges? Because He was right there by my side and He got me out. But sometimes the end result is finished, is final, is death itself. And there we have to have another attitude. And for this I would like to share with you a personal story. Many years ago when I was in Los Angeles, we established a school. And after the first year, 2 weeks before the end of the year, there was a Malava Malka for one of the divisions, and I asked someone to speak. And they told a story about an elderly couple who didn't have any children. They went to the Hasidic Rebbe, they got a blessing, and then they had a child after that. The child lived for 5 years, and the child died. And they were distraught. The woman was too old to have children. They were fit to be tied. They went back to this Hasidic Rebbe. They asked him, what happened? What's going on? And the Rebbe told him, he says, I'll tell you what it was. How he knew exactly, I don't know, but he told them. He said, many, many years ago, there was a non-Jew who was 5 years old, became enamored with his Jewish tutor, and left the palace. He was born as a prince, and to become a ger tzedek, to become a Jew. And he lived a life of super piety. When he came to heaven, he was told that he's super righteous, but he has 5 years of his life where he did not live that life of piety, and he has to come back into this world, is what we call a gilgul, a neshama, a soul that comes back to redo those 5 years. That child that you had was this soul that came back to make up for those 5 years, and he passed away. That was your mission. You did that. You did a wonderful thing. You nurtured him, and now he completed this great human, pious person that now is completely fulfilled in his piety. I was frankly very annoyed at this speaker. I asked you to entertain at an evening of Malava Malka for one of the divisions of the school. You tell such a morbid story. 2 weeks later, I was on the plane with my wife, going to Israel to bury my 5.5-year-old son who had just had an accident. And I turned to my wife in the middle of the trip. He was talking to us. And that story gave me the greatest consolation. Sometimes there are souls that come into this world to fulfill a certain purpose. Whether it's their purpose, whether it's to make up for the purpose from a previous generation, and they fulfill their mission and they leave the world. Without the realization that God controls everything and everything is for the good and He has a reason behind what He does, this tragedy would have been unbearable. But when I know that He runs the world, and I considered this story, what I felt at the time was an absurd choice of a story, when I consider this as a personal message to me, it was a tremendous source of strength. So I think that we have to look. When there's a trouble, we have to look to God that He's right there to help us out of it, and we will grow from it enormously. And when it ends tragically, then we have to know that there was a purpose, the mission was fulfilled, and unfortunately sometimes missions are fulfilled very early on, and the soul goes on to its eternal resting place in the closest proximity to the Creator Himself.